Gracious God, just want to thank you for this day, for calling my name this morning, allowing me to see a brand new day. And thank you for this time that you have granted us, and pray that your Holy Spirit will come to us. That whenever we are gathered in your name, we know that your Spirit is ever present with us, and we are opening ourselves up. Look into our hearts this day, whether we are together or whether we are in our own different places. We know that you are a God who connects us, and so use us and use me in this moment to be an instrument of your grace and an instrument of your peace and reconciliation. And there's so much that's going on in the world, and it is so often we just get so caught up with just trying to deal with all of the division and all of the animosity that's going on, that we're thankful for this moment of peace and this moment where we just say, God, speak to us and reveal to us those things that you want us to be able to hear. And we will do our very best to open ourselves up to listen to your voice and to speak to us. We're thankful for your comfort for those of whom are going through some very difficult and trying times. We're thankful that you are one who never forsakes us, that you are always available. And so even in those times where we don't want you and we pretend as though that you're not there, we acknowledge your presence in our lives. So just be with us in our time and just center us in your grace, so that all that we may do may be beneficial, and that we might give you all of the praise that you so deserve. Amen. Hi, I am VH Sonny Dixon Jr. I am the lead pastor here at Hobson United Methodist Church, and I want to welcome you to Hobson UMC on YouTube. This is a conversation I have with my son Trey that we use as a way of preparing me and getting me in the mindset for Sundays, and it is also an opportunity for me to be able to share with members of the congregation and those who are friends of Hobson, just to let them know what I will be thinking and what I'll be approaching on Sunday morning. And an opportunity just to be able to connect in this time where we are doing things differently. So I am thankful that Trey is here with me, and that we will hopefully have some conversation that will be both challenging to you and also bring comfort to you. So thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to this time together. Always an important time in the Hobson community, particularly during our worship experiences, is sharing with one another those joys and celebrations, along with those things that cause us a sense of concern, so that we can be in prayer for one another, so that we might know and understand how God is working in our midst, and those moments of where we are joined together, knowing that when we offer up our prayers, we're all praying to the same God. As a way of celebration, I just want to just give God thanks for, as I've asked you in the last few weeks, to be in prayer for James Frog Adair, who is Sheila Jones's stepfather. He had COVID-19, and he has been cleared. He is doing well. He is asking about TSU football and wants the keys to his car and all of those things. So we just celebrate and give thanks for healing that has taken place in his life, and just continue to be in prayer for him, and be in prayer for Sheila and all of those of whom love him and are care providers and advocates for him. We just ask you to be in prayer. It's good. I mean, when you look at his age, he's 90 years old. And, was not a lot of hope in that, but we serve a God who can, and so we just give thanks for that. We ask that you continue to be in prayer for those who are looking for employment that has been changed because of the pandemic that is going on and who are looking for jobs. We just ask you to continue to pray that their spirits might be lifted, that they might, as they go on interviews and fill out papers, that they might have, they don't let the rejections get them down, but they will continue to pursue those. So we ask you to be in prayer. Be in prayer for our families and those who are in school, those who are doing virtually, for our teachers and administrators, as we continue to look for ways to provide the kind of education and support for our children and our families in this day and time, and for those who are having to learn to do things in a different way. We just ask for prayers for them. For those of whom have been praying for and anticipating and waiting for football to start, football is start. So we just give thanks and we give praise, but let it also be a reminder that just because it's back, it doesn't mean that we can't continue to practice the distancing. And in some ways, when I listen to the protocol that's going in place for those athletes who will be out on the field, I wish those same kind of protocols were available for all of us, so that we might be able to get the kind of rapid response that maybe then we would cut down on the numbers, as we still continue to have almost 1,000 people a day die for it. So we ask for prayers for all of those who have been infected and affected by COVID-19. Ask that you be in prayer for and give prayers of thanksgiving. We've had some people in the congregation who've recently had some tests, and the tests have come out clear, and we've got some others who are waiting for procedures to be done as soon as they can be scheduled, and we just pray for their comfort in the midst of the pain that they're having to go through until those surgeries will come through. As always, if you have some prayer requests, or if you have something that you just want me to be in prayer about, I ask you to contact me. You can send it over Facebook. You can send it a text message or call me, because we are a community that believes in the power of prayer. Before I close out this time, though, I do want to just lift up all of those, out west who are dealing with the fires, for those that are in the Gulf that are dealing with hurricanes. I think it's Hurricane Sandy? Sarah? What's it?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's a S, but all I know is they got one more W. And then they'll have to go to Roman letters, and we still have got over 2 months of the hurricane season still before us. So we just pray for all of those who have been impacted by these disasters that are, for some who would believe they are a result of the climate change. So just continue to be in prayer and know that as you pray, just ask God to use you in the ways that God knows that you can best benefit to those who are around you, as a way of showing that you love your neighbor. Amen. Our scripture for this Sunday comes from the Gospel of Matthew. We're still in year A of the lectionary, and all of our gospel readings are coming from the book of Matthew. And today it is Matthew 20, and we'll be reading the first 16 verses, and we'll be using the New Revised Standard Version. For the kingdom of heaven is like a landowner who went out early in the morning to hire laborers for his vineyard. After agreeing with the laborers for the usual daily wage, he sent them into his vineyard. When he went out about 9 o'clock, he saw others standing idle in the marketplace, and he said to them, "You also go into the vineyard, and I will pay you whatever is right." So they went. When he went out again about noon and about 3 o'clock, he did the same. At about 5 o'clock, he went out and found others standing around, and he said to them, "Why are you standing here idle all day?" They said to him, "Because no one has hired us." He said to them, you also go into the vineyards." When the evening came, the owner of the vineyard said to his manager, "Call the laborers and give them their pay, beginning with the last and then going to the first." When those hired about 5 o'clock came, each of them received the usual daily wage. Now, when the first came, they thought they would receive more, but each of them also received the usual daily wage. And when they received it, they grumbled against the landowner, saying, "These last workers only work 1 hour, and you have made them equal to us, who have borne the burden of the day and the scorching heat." But the landowner replied to one of them, "Friend, am I doing you wrong? Do you not agree with me for the usual daily wage? Take what belongs to you and go. I choose to give to the last the same as I gave to you. Am I not allowed to do what I choose with what belongs to me? Or are you envious because I am generous? So the last will be first, and the first will be last." This is the word of God for the people of God. Thanks be to God. Trey, when I first came to Hobson and was in a community of people that I did not know, one of the ways that I tried to get to become familiar with them and to understand where they were was we did Bible study together, and as a framework for the Bible study, used the lectionary. So I was, I was preaching some, but I wasn't preaching all the time. But still, it was a way of being able to listen to them and to listen to their stories and to hear from them how they interpret the Scripture, to find areas where we had, common ground, to find areas where we might be challenged in the midst of that. And so it has continued to be a practice that I, even do now. And a part of this conversation is a way of, being able to help us to understand as we read the stories, where do we see ourselves in this story? This is one, a passage that has always been a challenge to teach, and also a talent to preach. One of the things that I used to do early is just to say, okay, I'd ask one question, centered around two questions. One first question was, where do you see yourself in the story, and what does this story calls you to do? I think the first time around, I did it that way. The second time I had to change it out because this story, everybody always saw themselves as being that laborer that came first. And, they were there first. And so when they listen to the story, and then they hear, just as, before we went back on the air, they may say the same comments that you made. "Man, that sucks. That ain't fair. I've been here all day and I'm just getting what. So everybody, chose that one. And so then when you go into the teaching of it and trying to help them to be able to see, the bigger picture on this issue, it was always a resounding thing, is that no, that just wasn't fair. And as you said, well, tomorrow, I'll just show up, but we can't, we can't look at it that way. And I've always, resonated around that line, that's in that, that, when the landowner said to him, "Look, you bargained. You decided what it was for you to be able to pay, and what I did for somebody else. Even though you might think it was unfair, I did not treat you unfairly." In particular, this week I've been thinking about some of the football players who signed contracts, before, and they're like, "Oh no, that got that. Oh no, I should have got, And so, it's a story that just challenges us because we never see ourselves as being the person who came at the end. And as I say, over the course of the years, I mean, there were some events that always would center around, and and particularly it seemed like whenever this would come up, there was always something going on within the congregation that people would point to and say, you acting like the landholder, you acting unfair, and I'm just share, a few of them with you. Um, One time I had, and this was, you know, a little later on, they had done a study around fairness with some monkeys, and I'm gonna put this video up on my web page so people can see it and know what I'm talking about. But they were trying to test the monkeys to see if the monkeys understood fairness. And so they got these two monkeys, and the monkeys are side by side. And they go in, and this lady offers them, and if the monkey gives them a rock, then the woman gave them a slice of cucumber. And so the monkeys are getting the cucumbers, the monkey's just the monkey, the lady has a rock, they give a cucumber, they cool. So then the lady comes, goes to this first monkey, hands her a rock, gives him a cucumber, goes to the second monkey, and then when that monkey gives a rock, gives the monkey a grape. And, monkey's eating a grape. And so first monkey kind of looks over like, okay, wait a minute. So she goes in, puts the thing out. He gives her a rock. She gives him another cucumber. And he looking at the cucumber, and she don't even ask the second monkey for a rock. She just gives the second monkey a grape. That monkey turned and threw the cucumber back at the woman, So the woman goes again, She goes, he gives her a rock. I don't know if it was a male or female monkey, but anyway, gives the monkey another rock. The monkey gives a rock. She gives a cucumber. That monkey goes ballistic in that whole thing of saying, and you could just see the monkey just saying, "This is not fair. This is not fair." And I talked about that study, and there was a person who was working with the church, working with Hobson and stuff, and she says, you are just like that lady. You are not fair. And I'm like, what am I not fair about? And her critique of me was that I like light-skinned children at the church better than I liked the dark-skinned children at church. And she was crying, you color conscious, you don't like. And I was like, wait a minute. First of all, I mean, you haven't really paid attention to me and what's going on. You're looking at some of the attention that I give to certain kids, and the kids that you think that I am doing more for are kids that need more. So yes, I'm not bringing some kids to church. I'm not going and picking them up. I'm not going and doing certain things. But some of the kids that I'm doing those things are kids who need that. And I said to this person, look, you got favorites. I said, yeah, I have favorites, but my favorites have nothing to do with the color of their skin. It deals with the relationships that I have with them. I said, while you're criticizing me, I mean, my absolute favorite child that came through Hobson and who is now here as an adult has always been Carissa. And I was like, and Carissa may be the darkest child here. But, if you want to say, yeah, you can criticize me, I'm the landowner, because guess what? I ain't using the church money. It's my money. I'm doing whatever I do. And so if I want to do that, I want to do that. The one other time I just want to share is that I asked a person about doing, a little job, and this guy, he was staying at the mission, and I went and I picked him up and carried him out, and he came and he worked and was doing stuff, and so I took him back. Well, I asked him how much he wanted to be paid. I told him, okay, I'll pay you what you want to be paid. I'd asked somebody else to do something else, and I asked them what they wanted to be paid, and they told me, gave me a price. Well, later, that was on, we were doing Rooming In, I think, on Friday night. Well, on Sunday, they were at church, and they had talked to one another, and the one who came found out that I had paid the other guy the same amount to do the job that he had done. And he had only taken like an hour to do the job. The other guy had taken like 7 hours to do the job. Well, part of him taking 7 hours was because he was daggum lazy. I know in the story we talk about, the person who worked hard and did all that. So we imply that both of them came, all of the employees, whether they came at the very early or 9, 12, 3, whatever, all of them worked hard while they were there. But in this particular case, they did not work as hard. Took them longer to be able to do it. They did the same kind of job, but just got upset with me because they wanted me to give them some more money because they figured they had been there all day long. And I said, you gave me the price. And I'm going to be honest with both of you all. Both of you all didn't deserve what I paid you. But I gave both of you all and agreed to both of the amounts because I knew what you all were trying to get money for. They were trying to get money so they wouldn't have to stay at the mission. They could stay at the Salvation Army for a week, and I knew what the cost for them to stay at Salvation Army. That was all that they were doing. And so for me, I looked at it as saying, I'm giving you your daily wage. I'm giving you what you need. The reality is I probably could have gotten it cheaper from somebody else, or probably could have done it myself, but I was using that moment to kind of justify. I say, and the guy, I didn't give him money. I think he stayed away from the church for about, 7, 8 months. He was mad at me for whatever, because I didn't give him any more money. But I think about those times when I read this story, and we never, it seems like we never put ourselves in that position of understanding that in some cases the justice, when we look at the person that only got there at 5 o'clock, we look at that person as, that person may have been lazy. But yet at the same time, what if that was a person who was a person of color? What if that was a person of whom, before we started this podcast, we were talking about, the stereotypes and the images that we have for people. What if this was a person of just whom, couldn't get to the marketplace because of other obligations or things we have? We don't ever look at the circumstances. We just look at it that there's all this sense of equality, and on this equality that somehow somebody was treated unfairly, when the reality of it is that when we see injustice in the world, sometimes we've got to be able to do. I was standing in the store and the people on the other side were talking about some different people were talking about the $12 million that the city of Louisville was paying Breonna Taylor's family, and needless to say, they did not have on masks, and they were just outraged that family was getting $12 million. That's just unfair. She'd have worked out, and they were going on, and I think they got louder because they were looking over at me, and I just got my ginger ale and Coke and just, kept on going. But we always are looking at the other people and what has happened to the other people, and we never look at this, put ourselves in that circumstance. How many times have we received more than we should? How many times has grace been in our lives and come when he didn't have to give that guy a job. I am sure by the end of the day, most of the stuff had been picked over anyway. And so he was just doing something out of generosity. How many times in our lives have we been that person who has been there and has received something? And none of us, when we find ourselves receiving more than we should, none of us ever step up and say, oh, no, look, please, that's way too much. I was only here an hour, just give me what. We don't do that. And so, Trey, that's what I'm going to struggle again with on this Sunday. I'll see who's there. I'll see whether or not we got, more of the laborers who came early, of the ones who just showed up late. And I'm reminded that, that the people who come early get a donut, and the people who come late, everybody still gets a donut, and nobody ever complains, say, well, only give them a half a donut because they only showed up. But anyway, that's what I'm going to be looking at on Sunday, and so let's talk. Well, Trey, I just, we wondering, have you gotten over your Mason's first birthday and the party
man.
and stuff? It was great. I'm waiting on my picture of him smashing the cake.
Yeah.
But how are you doing?
Well, you know what, man? I every day is a learning experience as being a new father and having, a human being that you're responsible for, their development. But to, have a first birthday, I didn't know what I was supposed to do, what it's supposed to look like. It's funny to talk to people who have been through that. And they can tell you, oh man, you need to do this, you need to do that. But when you're in that moment, you just go with whatever. But it was a great time. I mean, his his entire family was there to help him bring in 1 year of life, and it was a great experience. But it got me to thinking, about his name, Mason Vernon Henry Dixon, and to think about, how, when you start, you're like, I'm VH Sonny Dixon Jr. And really, how did you still keep the junior when you're, because of the way it's supposed to work? You're supposed to be now the second. Like, why are you still using junior?
Well, I never was officially a junior.
Right.
I saw other people who were juniors.
Okay.
And so I thought that was kind of cool to be a junior.
So that wasn't something that your mother and your father said, you are Vernon H. Dixon Jr. now.
I was Vernon H. Dixon the second.
Okay, that's what they gave you.
Yeah, that's what they gave me. That's what's on my birth sticker. That's what's on the thing. But the second, at that point in time, particularly when I was kind of, young, and these kind of going through these numbers and things, because I was like just Vernon Dixon, in school, in elementary school.
Right.
And,
me too.
As far as anything official. But then when it got to the place of where you had to sign something,
right?
The junior became, putting, two little ones. That what.
I got three little ones.
That wasn't cool. So I started signing stuff as junior.
Okay.
And then when I, even got a little older and started getting like a checking account doing stuff, I would just say VH Dixon Jr.
Okay.
And it was, kind of, something that I did. But nobody, I was never called I was never called Junior. It just made me sound grown up.
Oh, Junior. Okay.
That's how I kind of started using.
Now here's the thing. You know, I've known you for 37 years.
Uh-huh.
I don't know anybody that has ever called you Vernon.
Well,
just like Sonny.
Yeah.
That's what I've always heard you referred to by mom, by grandma, by everybody. It's Sonny. And for me, people call me Vernon at work because that's what they know. But nobody that, you know, I talk to on a regular basis that I consider to be my friend refers to me as Vernon. It's Trey. You know, they refer to me as my nickname. So, how did Sonny come about? What is that about?
Well, Sonny was once again something I kind of gave to myself.
You can't give yourself your own nickname, bro.
Well, I did because I can't show you the neighborhood where I grew up and put some of this stuff in, because the interstate came through and tore that down. But my life was really like a 9-block, growing up.
Right.
Till about 14 or 15. I was in a 9-block. So everybody I knew, I went to church less than a mile. I went to school, 2 schools less than a mile. Father had a business. All of this was within a mile. So, and it was, we could walk the streets and go and do all of those kind of things. So, until maybe the first grade, everybody who saw me knew who I was, adults.
Right. Of course.
Kids I went in school with called me Vernon, and so, but all of and I think my parents probably had wanted me to be called Vernon, but all of my father's friends, and one in particular who was the principal at the school that I attended, all of them called me Little Dick.
Yeah. That's no.
Well,
Dick.
when you're 3 or 4, I wore that with great pride.
Right.
That's my dad. I'm Little Dick. I'm Little Dick.
Yeah, right.
But then when I went in elementary school, and I don't think it was first grade, it may have been second grade or so, and around there, he called me Little Dick. Now, at that point in time, we were, it was 1st through 6th. So
right.
there were my older friends
right.
were around, and people, who just kind of know. And he was like, "Come here, Little Dick," And I responded, and my friends just went, "Wow!"
Right.
And so they were teasing me about, and I was like, "Oh no, I got to come up with something."
Yeah.
Got to come up with something. And the Junior and all that other kind of stuff. They had my sister had kind of a nickname. She was called Chubby, and and I didn't have any distinguishing kind of features. I wasn't real slim or that, And so I just started, dealing with, what about Sonny?
And so, okay, all right. What did Grandma call you? I think she referred to you as Sonny.
Right.
But before then, like, did you tell her? Did you have a conversation with, like, "Hey, Ma"?
Well, I think it was more of, I just want to, I would just say, call me Sonny, because and I was telling other people.
Right.
Not to call me what they had been calling me.
Yeah.
And so I think they never considered that until it became,
an issue.
Clear,
right?
Became an issue, and and so she called me that.
Right.
Or everybody began to call me that. People in the neighborhood began to call me.
Right.
Sonny. So it was when I went in the building, I was still Vernon.
Sure.
Because nobody uses nicknames in school
right.
at that point in time. And then when I got to middle school, they would say Mr., because they were trying to
incorporate
empower us into that kind of stuff. So in the neighborhood, it was Sonny.
Okay.
At church, it was Vernon.
Okay.
It was
Vernon,
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 right?
Vernon.
And so, when you say you haven't heard many people, it's because there are only a few people of whom are out of my childhood that are
Right.
still around, and the ones that I'm close to, like Kenny and those people, they knew two different names, right?
Right. So, I mean, yeah. When I was in grade school, I was Vernon. And then it changed, I think, fourth or fifth grade. When the teacher asks you, what do you want to be called? What is I got this handled. Everyone calls me Trey. And so that became, my alter ego.
And I think
You've never called me Vernon. Never. Not once in my life. You've never referred to me as Vernon. Just as you pulled up the show, as you welcomed everybody in, my son Trey.
Yeah. And part of the Trey, I did not want.
I didn't want to be called the smallest dick.
By that time, that was
The tiniest dick.
Yeah.
No. That was never gonna fly.
right. Well, no,
Just
but
kidding.
on your mother's side, because they had taken middle names,
Right.
so they called Roger, because they didn't want to call him,
Kenneth.
little Kenny or
Right.
something like that. They didn't want to call him, Trey. And going back to the nicknames, growing up for me, nicknames generally were could have been, people, kind of grew out of it, but they could have been kind of hurtful.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So you lifted
snotty and all that kind of stuff.
you lifted up Frog.
Yeah.
And I imagine that they don't call him Frog because he has hops that he
Right,
can jump
yeah.
around. I imagine they call him Frog
because
because he look like a little frog.
Right.
yeah.
But
So I know what
that
you mean.
came out of that, out of that generation. And in your generation, they just started making up names.
Whose idea was that? Who was the first person to say we're gonna call him Trey?
I don't really remember.
Like so you
It
didn't.
may
You,
have been your mother. It may have been your mother.
so we gonna Trey.
Because well, it was no debate.
Right.
You were going to be Vernon Henry Dixon III. So I mean, the name was there.
Right.
And it wasn't going to be, she may have thought about for a moment of Henry, because they were calling Roger, Kenneth
Right.
Roger Hall. They were
Right.
calling him Roger, so they were, may have thought about that, but that wasn't going. That didn't really ring because your grandmother's name was Henry.
Right.
And so we didn't want people to think, okay, well, he's named after his grandmother, so yeah. So
Yeah.
she may have just come up with,
Okay. All right. See, I mean, these are things that I never thought to ask.
I want to thank you for tuning in. I've enjoyed the conversation with my son, Vernon. Vernon Henry Dixon III. I say we're just delighted to spend this time together and to be able to share with one another, and hopefully to let some of you get to know us a little better, know me a little better. And in closing, I just want to encourage you to continue to be safe, continue to practice your distancing from one another, wear your mask when you go out, regardless of what people are saying about the COVID. It is better to be safe than it is to be sorry. So we just encourage you to continue to do that. And say, if you need me, you know how to get in touch with me. And I just thank you for spending some time with us today. Take care.